the cloud. Okay. And that should get us started. And welcome everyone. Michael Lane will be joining us for the second half of the group. I had the honor to, or the opportunity to attend Pause on Error last year, and he did a presentation on the data API and web integration. So he'll be joining us the second half of the group. Unfortunately, he's not going to be able to pop in until just before it's time for him to present. So that's why we don't see him here yet, but he will be, he is confirmed and will be in time to do that. That being said, the first half of the meeting, of course, is going to go with Alan Bird, will be presenting the second part of our ongoing FileMaker 101 development. And so at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Alan.
Okay, let's see. How do we do this here? I want to share. Okay, do you see the screen?
Sure do. Got that
Okay.
full screen share fixed for you.
Okay, but this is a quick review of this is what we covered last week. The quick review of what we did. We talked about the tables, the fields, value lists, relationships, layouts, and scripts. And this is just my interpretation. I took training from corporate FileMaker, and this is not, it replaces that. This is how to now implement it. And this is just my take on how to do it. We probably host about 300 databases currently online at this moment. So we've got a pretty deep knowledge of them. And our whole goal is how quick we can turn things on. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to build a core as a group. So that was what last time was. And can you see this one now? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So what we're going to do, and there's no way in hell I'll get through all this today. I tried to do it. I tested on this yesterday. It took me about 3 hours. I went, okay, we'll get it through as much as we can. But we're actually going to start from the very basic structure. This is the order of a build that I do it in. And it may be, and if you give us one solution to 10 different FileMaker developers, you'll have 10 different ways of doing it. This is just my solution to it. And it's open for criticism and comments. And what we're going to do is I'm going to show you get that off that screen, get back over to here, open up FileMaker. And this is what we're going to attempt to build. And so just to give you a quick overview, what we talked about doing is it's going to be a quick system where you log in with a PIN number, you come to a thing, you can actually go to an admin file for setup so you can clone it, and that's how we set it up. So that's what we're going to attempt to do, and I'm going to start from literally a blank screen, but I wanted to show you where this is going to go when we get it done. I doubt we'll get it actually functioning today, but we will within a couple months. And then at that point, I'll actually share it with everybody. So start with a new file. And we're going to start blank. Come on, there we go. And you got to name it KYFMP. Let's just stick it on the desktop for now. Okay, first thing FileMaker does is it gives you their solution of what they want to have as their default ones. Of course, being a longtime developer, I don't use these. So we're going to start off by throwing them away. And I'll show you what I use. Copy. And one thing I want to do is I'll rename the table. Okay, so I start with my basic core global table, which will be a single record, which is tied to everything. So whatever I put in here will be able to be used. Now, I'm going to build more tables, but I'm not going to do them now because what I want to do is actually import a theme. And I just call mine UD minimalist and it's okay. I stick it in here. And I go to this layout and I actually change the theme to what I'm going to be using. The reason I do that is because now I'm going to go over, I have to hit browse, then go back over into my managed themes and delete. It has to be 0 in order to delete it. So now the default one is going to be my solution. So whenever it creates a new one, now I could, any additional tables I build will always be using my default theme, which makes it a heck of a lot easier. Okay. So now I can actually go back in here and actually now build the other tables I need. Is there contact? Copy. Core user. The reason we're building a user file is because in order to have a login system, you've got to be able to have that. Then for our CRM, we need contacts. And then I built a connecting file and we just called it documents where we're going to store some stuff. So there's my basic core. Now we need to get into fields. And if you notice, what I do is I always put a underscore at the beginning. So it'll, when you do it in name order, it'll always be at the top. Then I do a dotted line, which separates it from all the rest of the fields. If you notice here, I've got my UUID identifier. I've got my one, which actually has a number 1 in it, which will be able to connect it through to the global. Then I've got your standard created by, created time, modified by, created. Then this one is a little bit different. This is modified host time. In our particular solution, we do a lot of things that are being used by multiple people in different locations. But if I want to do any syncing or any modifications, I've got to know based upon the server time. This modified time is based upon the local time, which does not always work. We've got a couple sync solutions where it's syncing on a regular basis, and it has to know it based upon the server time. So that's if you'll notice, I always put a modified host time in it. It's a pretty easy solution. All you do is you set it up based upon get current host time stamp. So whenever something changes, it actually changes it. So you don't have to do anything fancy. Okay, how do we get out of here? So that takes care of core users. Core log. Contact. Copy. Okay, so there's my basic setup. Now, if you go to relationship table, I'm a real big thing on Anchor Buoy. So everything will connect to my global connector. Cancel.
Can I make a little bit of a confession?
Yeah.
I never knew that that button down on the left was there to create your relationships. I have always opened up the table occurrences and drawn the line between the table occurrences. This is like, it just goes to show, like, when you go over this basic stuff, that there's always something more to learn. I mean, I've been developing for over a decade and I've never used that button. And I'm like, what? So just my confession for the day.
Yeah, one of the reasons I love this group is I have learned so much. I mean, I've been developing since '89 in FileMaker, and I learn stuff all the time, and of all the tips and tricks. And the problem is, being a self-taught person, I do it the old way because I did it always that way back from FileMaker in the beginning and 3 and that type of stuff. So every once in a while they show me something new and I went, shoot, I've been doing it wrong all this time. But yeah, that's what this group's all about. Okay, so there's my relationships. We got the things. And so now we actually have it set up and going. Now I can actually go into doing my layouts. What I found out, what I try and do is now I'll do blank layouts. What'll, you've got all of these. Why did it? Oh, shoot, it didn't do it. I guess I didn't save it. I tried to do it so that, so what I'll need to do is I'll need to build some layouts. And first of all, we have our home screen. And that's going to be off my global table. Opening, that's also off a global. Exit, off a global. This will be off the user list. This goes back to.
Excuse me, Alan, may I ask a question?
Sure.
What was the purpose of the plus in the name of that last layout that you made?
An error.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking, oh, hey, wow, I wonder what that signifies. I'm sorry. Okay, didn't mean to.
No, let's go back and change that because it's not supposed to be there. Now I'm sitting here trying to copy and type at the same time. And okay, let's see. I did the global set. Now I did a login pin. login pin is based upon core user. Edit. Been a long time since I had to build one of these from scratch, because as a good developer, we know how to cut and paste, and I clone my whole solutions. Contact.
I imagine for most of us, it's the same way. That, I mean, I haven't started a solution from scratch in God knows how long, because I always have a template starter file that I usually start with. It's got all the basic stuff in it to start with.
Yesterday, I started 10 different solutions, all using the same core. So yeah. Edit, that should be off of global. File setup. SPF document. Okay. Now now I have a blank record that it can actually go to as I build scripts, because a lot of the scripts say go to a layout, but if I don't have the layout in there, it'll break it. So I'll always do that first. The next thing I do is I import some basic custom functions. And there's only a couple that I absolutely have to have all the time. And if anybody's been doing this for a while, you probably have quite a few that you actually use on a regular basis. Let's see, which ones do I want? 7. Format, trim for, copy. Yeah. So after, before, and between is something I use all the time to parsing information. We do a lot of things with scanning things in, and I've got to be able to parse it. So those 3 are my core. Dates, stamps. Whenever I organize anything, I always do it by year, month, and date, so I can put it in logical order real easy. It does that. Email verification, so that it verifies that it's a valid email. When someone types in, puts in information, quick format, standardize it, and trims for it. Okay, so those are the basic custom functions that I use all the time. So we got that in.
Okay.
Yeah.
May I jump in? Trim 4 is basically the trim function with the addition of carriage returns.
Right.
So it's great for cleaning up. It's a function that everybody should have and use all the time in place of trim.
Yeah. Okay. Regular trim and trim all is built into FileMaker. Takes a little while to get used to trim all. Once you just have to learn what those codes are. Let's see. Fields. Import custom functions. And okay, now I can get into some of my scripts. Now what's going to cancel. Let's see. Copy. I don't want to do that.
You know, Alan, when you correct it, those of us with dyslexia can't read it again. We fixed it for ourselves the first time.
Yeah. What was that?
It said when you have dyslexia and you see
Oh.
something typed in correctly, your brain fixes it, and then you retype it, and you go, all of a sudden you understand what it is because it's correct.
Rename file. Login.
That's the kind of thing that makes me a terrible proofer. I cannot see my own typos and mistakes because my brain corrects them.
Yeah, never proof your own stuff. My poor wife, she has to read line by line a lot of things for me just so I can say, could you read this so I can figure it out? Barcode contact.
I have had my sister send out an email to a group after me. This is what Anne meant to say.
Login. Okay. Copy. Paste. Why isn't that copying over? Okay. Copy. This goes into file. Login. Copy. Copy. I'm just dropping these in real quick. We'll actually have to go over each one. So copy user.
I don't believe your group of file scripts actually went into the group, into the folder.
You're right. And document. And contact. Okay. That's my basic structure. I try and keep as many things into folders as I can just for keeping it organized. Let's see. And let me close out of this so it saves them all. It did save them all, didn't it? Yeah. No. But see, now since I already built my blank home screen, even though it's blank, at least it's got it. I've got my navigation in here and working. One of the things I learned real early on is I built a nav null. That means it's not functioning yet. So when I put a button in that you know it's going to be a placeholder, but it's not functioning yet, I at least put nav null in. Because that used to, I would copy a button over, but then all of a sudden I'd forget to go back and change it. So at least this way it doesn't function. So my default is always, if I put a new button in, unless I already have a script for it, I always put it into nav null so I know it doesn't work, because then I know my client will say, hey, this button doesn't work. Little tips of the trick. Okay, so there's the basic thing we're going with. In our file, I've got to be able to start up, shut down, and these are the only things I have showing. So when I go up to my toolbar, what's going to show up is go home, show my toolbar, shut down, or log in. That's it. And when it actually, then on the other thing, when I get done, I'll actually hide most of these and I only actually have home and exit. But we'll get to that a little bit later. Okay. Got those in. Now I need to put in value lists. We forget how many steps we have to go through. The other day I was going through this, I got to do this, and it took me a long time to remember how to do it all. Okay. Here's my default value list: active, Boolean, no, pin length, state, user privilege, X, yes, and yes, no. The reason I did this is because I have a lot of times where I have to do a yes, no radio button, and I want just a yes or just a no. So I end up having both, whereas this could be a checkbox or something like that. So it varies how I use it. So I end up splitting those out. So I've just, by default, I'll automatically put those in. State is just makes it easy when people put it in, that, it does a drop down list for the states. Okay. An active is usually most of the files, when I have it set up, when you first put it in, is automatically going to go to active. So let's go into manage some fields. Core user list. Copy. So this is by default, it always make it active, so that when you're looking for somebody, it only, most of my scripts have it say only show active, but that way it turns them on and off. First name, last name. This actually then generates it into a whole name for use. This would be the pin they're going to have, the privilege that it drops down to, and US user passcode. I didn't copy one over. Delete. I need both those. Copy. Okay. And I'll have to put pin length in. This is the problem when you have to copy one thing over building it like this. I get a lot of broken things just because I can't build it all at the same time. Whereas if I build my other solution, you clone it, you got it. Active, okay, admin password, container, date, database name. That background, core header, home, logo, open. Copy. Whole lot of global fields. And there's a couple things that I have two sets of images, one that the client can control and one that which I control that they can't override. That also has to do with security. If you load something into a global field, before you upload it to the server, those are locked in and cannot be changed. And that's real key for doing certain things. And we'll show you that in a bit. Now I can go back over to my user one, and this one should now be able to function.
Can I clarify a little bit something about what you said about the globals?
Yeah,
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, you didn't mean that you couldn't change the global, but what you could never do is never make it empty again as long as it's on. It will always be, when you empty it and then restart the solution, it will always revert back to whatever that value was when it was hosted.
correct.
So you can never change that initial starting value.
So yeah,
Okay, fellas, people believe that, but that's not the case. You can change a global field on a hosted file, and you can make the change stick. That was demonstrated several months ago at an FM Disk meeting. It was first discussed more than 10 years ago by John Mark Osborne at a DEF CON presentation. There's a specific set of steps that you have to go through, but it works.
Yeah, it's not 100% locked, but it's, unless you know really what the hell you're doing, it's not going to be an easy fix.
Right. So
You
it
got to
doesn't
know the
behave.
secret edge.
Yeah,
Right.
very
So
much
it
a
doesn't-
secret engine.
Essentially, it doesn't behave the same way that it does locally, that when you open up a file locally and you change that global and then close it, the next time you open that local file, it will have the value that was in it last.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Okay, manage database user log. Copy. Paste. Document. Copy. Just to get the basic things running. I've learned over the years, I put all my addresses, start with address, so they're all grouped together. I mean, because it's, you know, city, state, street, zip code, that type of stuff. And same with name, I group them by that, so they're bunched together. Just makes it a heck of a lot easier. Okay, so I don't want to do that. We've got some basic things running, and now value lists. Copy. Okay. Edit. Global set. Global set. These are the basic things I use for setup on this. these are the images that I'm going to put in so that they're locked into the system using the global variable before I upload it to the server. These are just some of the standard buttons I use. And so I have one place I can go to so I can copy and paste and move them over. The name, the user, and the expiration date are those things that you fill in for sort of a rudimentary type of security to it. This limits how many users they can actually put in the system. So since we're using the security a little bit different than officially how FileMaker wants to do it, this is the way I control if they only bought a 10-user license, it only lets them put in 10 users. If they try to put in the 11th, it says not available, contact the developer for buying more. An expiration is, I always put an expiration on my solution so that whenever the contract expires, it does it. It does not stop the solution. You could actually change your script so that it would actually not start up. What mine does, it just has the word expire at the top. And you can get into, bigger changing things. And I've got my school solutions where as it gets closer, the more days that come, the font gets bigger and bigger and bigger to the day it actually expires, it covers the whole screen. So it doesn't stop it, but they sure will know that it's there. The other is this DB name is the name of the file so that the customer really can't clone it and use it again for something else. Because when it starts up, it's going to say, does this match what the name is? And if they match, it starts up. If not, it gives you an error warning. Again, this is sort of a simple solution to sort of lock it down a little bit. Okay. Now we go for admin setup. And this one is just all one word, big screen. Copy. And this is, exit redirect. I didn't copy that one over. Database, global, geo. Yeah. Okay. So now that I actually have the scripts behind the scenes, when I drop these buttons in, it actually makes it work. This is what the client sees. And so whatever I put in the other file over here, it will show over here. So let's go in and global set. KYFNP 2022. We'll give it a user of 10, expiration, end of the year. Browse, copy, paste, copy, paste, background, copy. Oh no, those are wrong. Browse, copy, paste, copy, paste, And this is where I put my corporate logo in. So on the closing screen, it does show. Okay. So those are those. Now we go back over to our file set the customer sees. And KYFMP _2202. Admin, and we're going to do a requirement of 6. When it closes it down, it'll redirect it to this website. That's a public URL for WebDirect. Now, all these things up here are what the client can actually insert. So they have control of these. But notice they don't have any control of these down here. And so this is where it shows 312 days to it expires. And once it hits expires, if you notice, I had this up here, this will pop up and shows that it's expired. And I do that just by a real simple, it hides it or not, because it's in a calculation that if it's expired, it changes it to a 1. Okay. Now, so our opening logo, let's go, opening. These are full screen. That. Copy. So this is set so that it's actually, get rid of all this. We don't need any of this in here. It's set to reduce or enlarge, close to fit, maintain original proportions, and it's set to expand and contract based upon the size of the screen. So that as it changes, it'll work. Once it gets down to too small, but that's where it goes. Layout. Okay. We need a home page. 75. Uh, 535. And I think this is 40. Now, what'll happen is with your navigation or with your themes, you've got to go back through and do different things. If you copy your whole solution over, this is already done for you, so it makes it easier. And that's a footer with no table. Okay. Copy. And if you notice, I've actually made this on a little bit of the smaller side, because what it's going to do is this solution will actually now work on a phone as well as a tablet, as well as a full-size screen, so that the one solution can handle it all. And let's see. Exit. Layout. Again, this can be full screen. So copy. So this actually, when you close the solution down, it goes to the screen. I'm a firm believer in whenever you do something, there's some type of reaction so people know that they've done something. Okay, now we're going to get into a real magic page. And this is one I've got to thank Jonathan for helping me long ago come up with it on handling the keystrokes so that this works. On a keyboard.
Except the numbers are upside down.
Oh, it all depends on what phone you use.
Well, I'm looking at the,
I've had to rearrange them for a couple of clients because they want it done differently.
yeah. I mean,
This
I'm
is
looking
more
at the
like the-
keyboard on
Yeah,
my.
this is a 10 key keypad is why it's like that.
Well, I mean, I'm looking at the numbers on my keypad, and the 7 is in the upper left.
Yeah, but if you take a look at your phone, this is the way it lays out on an iPhone.
I know, but I do all my numbers on my.
Well, then on your solution, you can reverse it.
Yeah. All right.
But
Thank
now
you.
what's fun about this is the fact that there's literally, this is just a field.
Yeah.
And what I've done is, get this out of the way here, is, if you hover over, it'll change its, the different things. When you press it, turns red. So it's not a graphic at all. It's just a simple button.
Mhm.
And the script behind it is layout, format, button setup. Is login add, and it's using a script parameter. So each one of these is the same script. If you look at this one, the only difference is the script parameter. This is a 2. So the only ones you really have any difference are your backspace and your clear. Those are actually a separate script.
Yeah.
So that's remove last. And that's to clear it. And what happens is that the way the script works is when we set it up that it was going to have X amount of pins in our open setup, browse, we said it's going to have 6 digits. So it's going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It doesn't do anything until it reaches 6. Then it's actually going to look, say, oh, I've got all 6 of my digits. I compare it to my user list, and I pull up the right one. So that's how that works. There is a set on that it actually does a count. If you try more than 3 times, it'll actually come up with and locks out. Browse, layout, go back over to here. The way this, and these are just buttons. So, I mean, I just put 6 up here. You could do it however you want, just to give some visual indication of it. The other part on that is a script trigger. Keystroke, yeah. You have to put a script trigger on this, on record layout enter, on layout keystroke, on layout keystroke. There it is. And I'm using login keystroke. What this does is this now actually works with your keyboard. If you press a button, it's not going to work now because it's on login enter. So if I come back out, Now I come back in. Now, if I put something on my keyboard, it should have worked.
Damn it.
Oh, I know. Let's see. Let's see. Why didn't it work? Layout.
So Alan, can I ask a question
Yeah.
about? So is this basically is a pseudo login system where when you open the file, it logs into a FileMaker account already, and then you're using a users table to
Yes.
further?
Yeah. What it opens up is it's using the default. If you go back into file options when you first open it up, let's see. I think.
Go quick. Go quite quick.
Want to get to something fairly current. And script triggers on first window open. File startup, one last window close, file shutdown. And on open, I've got a default user. And KYFMP. KYFMP.
So then access for the file is, it's not using a username and password. It's just using, each user has a unique PIN, and that's what
Right.
gives them access. Okay.
Right.
You know, it's kind of funny because, and by the way, welcome, Michael Lane is with us now, so he's going to be presenting here in a few minutes. But it just reminds me of basically the type of system that is used to provide anonymous access through web integration, where you would use an API account and then use a table-driven set of user credentials to be able to kind of allow somebody to set up an account that's kind of an anonymous access account,
Right.
Through data API.
Yeah. So then in security is where I actually would then set up we have user. KYFMP. User. KYFMP. And it does have to be data entry because they're actually are typing something into a field. So you've got to be able to give them that ability to do that. But this is where what I do is I actually have, I think, 5 different levels of access allow. And it's all based upon, I don't want to do that. Oh, that's why it didn't work. We're missing a couple fields here.
So prior to somebody authenticating with their PIN number and the default user that it logs in as, does that, when they do log in with their PIN number, does that change to another user? So is the default user a very limited privilege set? And
Yes.
then
In other words,
once you successfully
yeah.
validate the PIN, then you get it.
Yeah, each one changes it. It'll change it based upon here. See, if you come in by a user, it has, it hides the menu bar, hides certain thing. It changes you what things you can actually change, what menu set it's going to show. So it's all done by the different levels. So I've got user, staff, office, admin, and then developer. And so that what happens is by you putting that in, the total number can only be what the file limit is, but I could have all of them in one category if I wanted to. So it's just doing the total number of connections. Let's see. Yeah, so that's not going to work because I didn't put those in there. So that's why it didn't start up for us. But that gets us to at least a jumping off place. So now next month, during this time, actually, I'm going to be in the air, so I won't be able to present. But in April, we'll actually get this actually functioning. And I would probably say by May or June, I'll actually post this so you can actually have this file. So don't worry about what I've skipped over pretty quick, because you'll actually be able to take and run with this. This is, we talked about it. We're going to make this available to everybody who participates in the group going forward. And then once we'll post it online, we can actually start building it together. So I think it's been a long time since I started with a blank screen and got it this far, but at least that's where we're at. So I've got 12:59, so whew, a lot of fast talking.
Good job.
Yeah, I think from what we talked about, this is about where you wanted to get to today, wasn't it?
Yeah, I wanted to be able to get to, like, I was hoping I'd be able to actually get it functioning, but obviously I didn't get all my scripts copied over. But yeah, so then,
Yeah,
so
timed
we're pretty
it right
close.
down to the minute.
That's right. Okay, so that's it for me. And what will happen is once we get a little bit more of this done, I'll actually post all the different things, all the different charts, the build up, like I've got the build list and that type of stuff in the order I do things. And this will all be available as part of the solution that we're building for the group.